I was late to our neighborhood's annual block party, stuck at the office finishing a last-minute deadline that had already put me on edge. By the time I finally turned into our driveway, the entire street was buzzing with life, the warm glow of string lights stretching overhead, music drifting through the air, and laughter spilling from every corner like it belonged to a different, happier world. I texted Sarah to let her know I was home, already picturing her out in the backyard, wine glass in hand, chatting with neighbors, smiling the way she does when she feels at ease. But as I made my way toward the noise, I passed by the kitchen window of our neighbor's house and stopped dead. There she was, Sarah, but not how I expected to find her. Derek, her co-worker, stood close to her, his body pressed against hers, and they were kissing, not just a passing peck but a kiss that said everything words never could. For a second, my heart seemed to forget how to beat, and the laughter and music outside dulled into a distant hum, leaving only the sight of them tangled together. My keys bit into my palm as I stood frozen, unable to look away, feeling like the ground beneath me had shifted. She hadn't seen me, too lost in him, her fingers gripping his hair, their bodies close enough to erase any chance that this was an accident. In that moment, all I could think of was Mia, our 7-year-old, somewhere nearby running around with her friends, blissfully unaware of how her world, our world, was coming apart. We had spent 9 years building a life together, 9 years of school drop-offs, weekend soccer games, pancake breakfasts, quiet nights planning for the future, and now, here it was unraveling right in front of me in someone else's kitchen while everyone we knew was laughing just outside. I wanted to smash the window, to shout, to make them feel the same pain that was twisting through me, but instead I forced my feet forward, cutting through the crowd until I reached the back door. When I stepped inside, the creak of the hinges made them both jump apart like guilty teenagers caught sneaking around. Sarah's face went white when she saw me, her mouth opening as though to speak, but Derek didn't bother with excuses. He just wiped his mouth, muttered something under his breath, and slipped past me, leaving Sarah standing there, cornered and small. The music outside suddenly felt cruel, like background noise to a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. "What the hell is this?" I asked, my voice low but shaking with anger. Sarah tried to speak, but her words caught before she finally said, "It's not what it looks like," her voice cracking. But I had known for months, deep down. The late nights at work, the way she guarded her phone like it was some fragile secret, Derek's name coming up just a little too often. I had told myself I was imagining things, that I was just being paranoid, but now I couldn't deny it. "Not what it looks like," I said, stepping closer, my voice sharper now. "You're kissing him. In front of everyone we know. How is that not what it looks like?" Her tears started then, but they didn't soften me, not this time. The hurt was too raw, too loud inside me. I turned before I said something I couldn't take back and walked out through the crowd, not hearing the music anymore, not seeing the smiles of the neighbors who probably had no idea that everything had just changed. I found Mia with her friends, her little face glowing with happiness as she ran to me, shouting, "Daddy," and throwing her arms around me. I knelt and held her tight, her giggles cutting through my chest like both a comfort and a wound. And I knew I couldn't do this in front of her, couldn't let her see what her mother had done, not yet. So I took her hand, stood up, and together we walked toward the car, away from the party, away from Sarah, leaving the music, the lights, and the broken pieces of what had just happened behind us. I walked away, ignoring the curious looks from the neighbors as if they were just distant shadows. Sarah's voice chased me down the street, calling my name, each syllable cutting through the night like glass, but I didn't turn back. I couldn't. Every time I imagined her face, I saw Derek's hands on her, his mouth where mine should have been, and the memory made me feel hollow. When we got home, Mia was still buzzing with excitement from the party. She followed me around, talking about who had danced with who and how much fun she'd had. I nodded when she expected me to, but my chest felt tight, my stomach in knots. When she finally went to bed, the house fell quiet. That's when Sarah appeared, standing in the living room like she didn't quite know what to do with herself, twisting her hands together until her knuckles turned white. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely holding together. "It was a mistake." The word landed like a slap. A mistake? That's forgetting to grab the milk on the way home, or leaving the laundry in the washer too long. This wasn't an accident. This was a decision, her decision, to put everything we had on the line for him. I thought about every time we'd sat together, planning a future, laughing about growing old, promising Mia the kind of family we'd both never had. Now, every memory felt poisoned. Sarah started to cry, tears streaming down her cheeks, but my anger was too sharp to let pity in. The picture of her kissing him was burned into me, like a photograph I couldn't rip up. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started tossing clothes into it with shaking hands. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice rising in panic as if the question itself could stop me. "Out," I said, my tone flat, cold. I didn't even look at her. I needed to breathe, needed space to think without her tears drowning me. For a second, I thought about the party, how close I'd been to saying something in front of everyone, to tearing the facade down right there in the middle of all those polite smiles and glasses of wine. But I hadn't. I'd swallowed it for Mia's sake. "You need to figure out what you want," I said, zipping the bag shut with finality, "because I don't know if I can stay with someone who does this." She didn't answer. She just stood there, and her silence was louder than any apology she could have given. It was all the confirmation I needed. The line between us wasn't just crossed, it was burned away. I drove until the lights of the neighborhood were gone, until it was just me, the road, and the sound of my own thoughts clawing at me. I found a cheap motel, one of those places with buzzing neon signs and stale air. My phone kept lighting up with Sarah's messages, apologies, excuses, promises to change, but I didn't reply. I just stared at the ceiling, thinking about Mia and how I'd keep her world from shattering even as mine already had. This wasn't just about a kiss. It was about Sarah choosing someone else over us, choosing to break what we'd built. And I didn't know if I wanted to forgive her, or if I even could. When morning came, I drove to Mia's soccer game. The sun was bright, almost too bright, but watching her on that field, chasing the ball with all her energy, laughing when she stumbled, I felt something settle in me. For those moments, the pain faded into the background. Sarah wasn't there. She'd texted to say she was staying with her sister to give me space. I didn't care where she was. What mattered was being here for Mia, making sure she felt safe, that she still had one parent she could rely on. The neighbors would talk, of course. They'd whisper about the party, about what they thought they saw or heard. Let them. I didn't owe them my pain. What Sarah had done had cost her my trust, maybe our marriage. I still didn't know if this was the end or the start of a long, messy road to something new. But I did know this. I wouldn't let her betrayal define me, and I wouldn't let it steal Mia's joy. As Mia ran up to me after the game, her face flushed, grinning as she told me about her goal, I felt something shift inside me, not forgiveness, not yet, but resolve. Sarah's choice had shattered what I thought we were. But I would rebuild, even if it was just me and Mia. I didn't know if that meant divorce or a painful path toward forgiveness, but whatever it meant, it would be on my terms. The party was over. So was the version of us I'd believed in. All that was left now was the truth, raw, unyielding, and the strength to take the next step forward. One step at a time, no matter how hard it was.